Fellow FPL managers, today we are looking at my new and improved Game Week 1 FPL team, and I believe I have cracked the code with this one, so stay tuned, let's get right into it. Now, before I start this video, I want to let you know I have gone quite differential, and it's not that I'm trying to be edgy, I'm trying to be unique. I genuinely believe this team is the team to carry me in FPL. There are some what ifs in terms of whether players are going to be fit enough or whether they're going to become rotation risks in the near future. But on the whole, I'm very happy with the team I've made. Just keep an open mind because you're not going to see players like Mohamed Salah here. In goal, we got Kinski on the bench in case he becomes #1 goalkeeper for Spurs. But in the starting 11, we got Robert Sanchez. Now, either him or Matt Sells are two great 5 million keeper options. It's honestly a coin toss between the two. But because Nottingham Forest towards the end of last season weren't great, I've gone with the Chelsea goalkeeper instead. It really is that simple. Both teams have amazing fixture runs, yet Chelsea are just, a little better on recent form. Obviously, they dominated PSG in the Club World Cup final as well. So I've gone with Sanchez. In defence, we've got Gavardio, who I'm not seeing a lot of, to be honest. I'm seeing a lot of 6 million defenders, maybe some from Arsenal, which I respect, some from Liverpool too, some even from Chelsea and Cucurella. But I think Man City have one of the best fixture runs in the game, and picking a defender with reliable minutes from that team, with a bit of goal threat as well, seems like a fairly common sense pick to me. I don't know why his ownership is as low as it is. I mean, fair enough, it's like above 15%, but I would have thought it would have been a little higher if I'm being completely honest. We also have Tarkowski at 5.5 million, who I think is criminally underrated. He is a defensive contributions beast. He would have got 44 extra points last season. He would have been a very high scoring defender, even though he didn't start, I think, 7 or 8 of the games. He only started about 30. He is also a bit of a goal threat from corners as well. He'll probably only score like 2 goals in a season if we're being realistic. But that's still more than 0. So if you own him at the right time, you could be in luck for a massive haul. Then we are rotating Van de Ven with Konza. Konza is currently on the bench. We all know why Konza's here. He's one of the highest owned cheap defenders in the game. I'm sure most of you watching this actually have Konza with Van de Ven. So we've got Van de Ven for the home game against Burnley. He's only going to be getting clean sheet points. I don't expect assist points. I don't expect points for goals. Defensive contributions are going to be quite rare. He's just cheap access to, let's be honest, at best an average defense with a good fixture run. We are actually rocking a midfield 5, guys. Semenyo, you will see, is on our bench. Now, I think Semenyo is incredibly underrated. He plays away to Liverpool in Game Week 1. Sure, that's tough. That's why he's on the bench, and I've got a midfield 5 along with the front 3. The Bournemouth fixture run, Game Week 2 onwards, is pretty good, and Semenyo is the most reliable Bournemouth attacker. I know Kluivert's on penalties and on some more set pieces, and he was technically slightly better last season. But Semenyo on the whole is more reliable for minutes, and I actually think he ended the season a lot better than Kluivert. With them both being 7 million, it wasn't the easiest choice to make, but purely because I think Semenyo is going to get more game time, that's why I picked him instead of Kluivert. On the actual team, the player who's usually going to be the sub is Balaba. I think that's how you say his name. 5 million from Brighton. When he plays for me, he's just coming on for an attacker I know isn't going to get any points for returns. Like Semenyo away to Liverpool, sure there's a chance, but ultimately he's probably not. And I've got Balaba here who's got an alright chance. Again, 3 to 5 points with defensive contributions and a clean sheet point maybe for only 5 million. I'd say that's some decent bench fodder just to cover me in the games where I know my attackers have a really tough fixture. It's just going to be a real pain if Semenyo ends up scoring against Man City. I wouldn't like that. I'll be fuming. Then we have Florian Wirtz. Guys, Wirtz, I was against him for a long while, but after seeing how he's been making lots of forward runs in pre-season and also taking up a few set pieces, I've changed my mind on him. Even though Game Week 2 and 3 are quite tough, I think Game Week 1 and 4 are so good it could be worth keeping him through those tough games anyway. On the whole, going without Wirtz is quite scary. The ownership is quite high, and I don't want to be one of those guys who's too stubborn to change his mind. Ultimately, I do think Wirtz is an alright option and good value at 8.5 million. And, if I turn out to be wrong, I turn out to be wrong. At a similar price, we have Bruno Fernandes, who I believe is the most overlooked player in FPL. I've said it once and I'll say it again. He was averaging above 11 defensive contributions per 90 last season, and he normally plays the full 90. Not to mention, he's on every single set piece. He can score from range. He's one of the best passers of the ball in the league. He can sometimes play a really advanced role as a right or left forward, as well as playing as a centre mid. But either way, he's at the centre of everything Man United does. And this year, he has competent players in front of him. I just don't see a world in which he doesn't absolutely destroy FPL this season. When I first had Bruno in my draft, I think his ownership was less than 8%. Now I've looked at him on the FPL app, he is above 13%. So the people are slowly realising, people are slowly changing their mind. So if you're out there still debating Bruno Fernandes, mate, join the wave, join the curve. We are going to be winning all season. Then we have Ndeye, a controversial one. At 6.5 million, there's a lot of good attackers to choose from. With Nday, I think that's how you say his name, Ndai, however you say it. I've chosen him as my 6.5 million midfielder because of the amazing fixture run he has and the fact he's on penalties, even though Everton rarely get penalties. The argument against this guy is that he doesn't have very high expected goal involvements per 90, which is true. But players with, average expected data still haul in the easy games because they're easy games. You're going to get more chances than you normally do in an average fixture run. So sure, on paper, he's, fairly priced at 6.5, nothing special. But on a good fixture run, he's actually a great player to own, and it's fairly simple to switch him out for someone else at 6.5 million after like 4 game weeks because there's so many good options. Now we go into the front three. Obviously, Haaland is here, the only player above 10 million in my team, which is a bit controversial. Now, I want to tell you guys something. I want to explain my reasoning here, why I've only got one premium. I originally was planning my Haaland teams with Palmer, but then I realised with Bruno and Watkins in the team, I would not captain Palmer until game week 9, because in game week 3, 5, 7, Watkins and Bruno cover it perfectly. They're playing against teams like Burnley and Sunderland, and every other game week Haaland is a good captaincy option. And with players costing over 10 million, in terms of how much they cost, how much value they give you, players above 10 million only give you value when they're used as the captain. If you look at Salah and Haaland in FPL, when captaincy isn't a thing, they're actually some of the worst players to pick in the game. But with captaincy, it makes an expensive player actually bring out more value. What I'm trying to say is, if Palmer's going to be my team for 8 game weeks without being captained, he's technically a waste of money I could spend elsewhere, which is why I've gone with multiple, expensive players, but not players that are going to need captaincy at least every other week. So I hope you guys can understand my reasoning there. I feel like it makes sense. That's why I've gone without Palmer. I could change my mind because I do believe he is one of the most essential players in the game. But I prefer Haaland, and like I said, if he's not going to be my captain, he's actually not bringing me as much value as I want him to be bringing. Watkins, I think, is heavily overlooked, a bit like Bruno. He is quite expensive, but the Aston Villa fixture run, game week 1 to 7, is without debate the best fixture run in FPL. Watkins is listed as the penalty taker for Aston Villa on the FPL app, and he was taking them last season. He's also Premier League proven, last season he still nearly got 200 points despite on paper having a disappointing season for his standards. I think he's a much better pick than Gyökeres, much safer as well. So Watkins I'm a huge fan of. I'm glad that not many people own him. I hope it stays that way for game week 1 because I don't want more of my opposition picking up a good player they don't know about. And if it turns out Gyökeres is actually a really good option, when it gets to around game week 8, Arsenal's fixture run gets really good, and it's a nice simple swap from Watkins to Gyökeres because they're both the same price. Now, if I'm priced up by 0.2 million, I'm sure I'll be able to work my way around it. But there's plenty of players at that price point I can switch to. Like, even if Ekitike after the first 3 game weeks turns out to be Liverpool's best asset, I can make an easy switch there too. Last but not least, we have Solanke, who is actually a minute's risk right now because of his lack of match fitness. He hasn't played a game in pre-season yet. He is 7.5 million. So if it turns out he's unable to play in game week 1, that's his main appeal, home to Burnley, I can switch to someone like Chris Wood or João Pedro, and I won't stick with Solanke. But I'm making this draft in hopes that Solanke will be fit for game week 1. But if not, it's not like I need to restructure my whole draft. I can bring in a forward who's nearly as good for the same price. The reason I'm so adamant in picking Solanke above Chris Wood and João Pedro is because Solanke has been given penalties in the absence of Heung-min Son, which I think is a huge addition to his appeal in FPL. I know Chris Wood also has penalties, but Chris Wood usually relies on overperforming and having a high conversion rate. And to be fair to Chris Wood, he's overperformed consistently on his expected goals for the last 2 seasons in a row. So 3 seasons in a row doesn't seem too far-fetched, and I still think he's an amazing player to choose. If you guys did make it this far, let me know what you think of this differential team. Is there any choices I've made that are a bit out there that, I should probably change? Do you think going without Salah is an awful idea? I know most people do. But let me know what you think of the team down in the comments, and let me know what you would change. Guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.